files. Because I mean, hey, they're releasing them, but it's really causing more confusion than giving us answers. So let's get to it.
Is the Department of Justice considering bringing any additional charges here?
Well, look, I can't talk about any investigations, but I will say the following, which is that in July, the Department of Justice said that we had reviewed the file.
Oh, and shout out Tova, appreciate it. She said we got mail from the Dem Party thanking my grandpa for voting in the 2020, and they had hoped to get his vote again in 2024. He passed away in 99. Yep. I mean, I remember during the 2020 election, what was it? I remember I pulled up to my mom's crib and she got mail from the previous owner of the house that she bought, and they was sending her mail to her, and they sent the mail-in ballot to her. Now, lucky my mom has integrity, or she might have been one of those folks that'd be like, all right, bet, nah, F Trump. We need double to vote for Biden. Now, she didn't do that, but you can see how that could have been done, especially if people are just getting people's vote-in mail ballot. I mean, you see how that's kind of sketchy, Dems? But apparently, oh no, set the old people. How are old people gonna vote? And they kind of just like, pulled on our emotional strings on the old people. When really we're like, well, for voting integrity reasons, we need people to pull up. We need to know actual Americans are voting and participating in these elections and is not being defrauded in any way, shape, or form. But hey, man, the Dems didn't care. They just want to pull on emotional strings and be like the old people.
The quote Epstein files, and there was nothing in there that allowed us to prosecute anybody. We then released over 3.5 million pieces of paper, which the entire world can look at now and see if we got it wrong. And so it's not performative, and I respectfully disagree with that statement. We were ordered to do so by Congress and then by the President of the United States, and that's what we did. And let me, I said it on Friday, this Justice Department, the FBI, DHS, we have gone after more sex traffickers, more child pornographers, more men who have done harm to children and young women than any administration in history. And so we need to separate those two ideas, the fact that there's the Epstein files and whether there's anybody there that we can go after, and the work that we are doing every day, which is extraordinary, and we will continue to do that.
You just said that now these documents are out for the world to see and maybe something could come up. Are you suggesting that if a sort of civilian sees something that you should prosecute, that could open an investigation?
Well, look, the way that we start many of our federal cases is because we hear tips from civilians or from others in the community. But my point in saying that was slightly different. It was that the review that we had done before concluded that there was no such information, and that's where we remain for what we've seen and what we've released from the Epstein files. Now, there's a lot of correspondence, there's a lot of emails, there's a lot of photographs, there's a lot of horrible photographs that appear to be taken by Mr. Epstein or people around him, but that doesn't allow us necessarily to prosecute somebody. And
yeah, I mean, there was one picture that was pretty disturbing that BBC covered. It had Prince Andrews, a picture of Prince Andrews on all fours. I mean, I was like, yo, yeah, this is black man material. The bro's on all fours. And then, of course, they had other people in there posing with girls where we don't know their age or anything like that. So I don't know. Like I said, it's causing more confusion than giving answers. And because then, like I said, they also put the caveat of, now, we all know what you're going to read is pretty terrible, but just know that we don't know if any of these stories are actually true. We're just like, are you serious?
What's important for the American people, and the victims want to be made whole. And so we want that. The Attorney General wants that more than anything, but that doesn't mean we can just create evidence or that we can just kind of come up with a case that isn't there.
Among these new files is a list compiled by the FBI just in August of numerous salacious and, to be really clear, unverified allegations about President Trump. Why did the FBI create this list last year, and have all of these claims been investigated by the DOJ?
So look, it's not about President Trump. It's about a ton of people, multiple people that were, quote, in the Epstein files. And what I think folks will see when they review the materials we released is that there have been hundreds of calls made to the FBI where allegations are made by either anonymous individuals or people who are very quickly determined to not be credible, whether it's the nature of what they're saying or the fact they won't provide any information or corroboration. And that's part of the Epstein files. So go ahead.
I understand that. But the fact that you created a list, the FBI created a list about the allegations against President Trump, it is certainly noteworthy. I mean, he's a sitting president. And the question is whether or not the DOJ, but the question is, and I'm not saying that they're verified at all. And that's what my question is to you. Did you look into what you have on those lists?
Yes, of course, but what you're not being fair in that question, because that index, that list you're talking about was not just President Trump. It was all kinds of individuals, other politicians, other, quote, famous people, where we wanted to understand, okay, there were members of Congress that were accusing us of hiding things, which we're not doing and which we haven't done. And so we wanted to understand why and where that was coming from. And it turns out there was a number of claims made by either, like I said, anonymous people or somebody, for example, calling and saying, I used to have a roommate who told me this sensational story. So just, obviously that's not something that can be really investigated, right? What's your roommate's name? I don't remember. Right. So that's what that's about.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, look, the way y'all compiled it together, you put it with the stories that could be corroborated and you put everything together. And now we got to sit there and decipher what can be corroborated and what can't. What is just witness testimony that never led anywhere, or a crazy story that never led anywhere? And what are stories that we can connect dots to? And 3 million pages is a lot to leave to the public to connect dots to. So, I mean, trust me, we'll have the dots connected, but it's going to be a while. And like I said, we got to chase down all the stories that might just not lead to anything. That might just be made up for all we know. But let's see.
I don't appreciate it being directed towards Donald J. Trump, because that pushes a narrative that is completely false. There are all kinds of people that are mentioned in the quote Epstein files that we had to look at and run down.
Yeah, no, I understand. He is the only sitting president who we're talking about. I do want to move on. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon and another journalist, Georgia Ford.
I mean, no, that is a good point, though. It's like, we never really bring up Clinton's relationship with Epstein. And trust me, I mean, Donald Trump and Bill Clinton both had a close relationship with Epstein, and both deny being on the island, both deny things going any further with Epstein and his escapades. They both deny that. But let's be honest, though, we are focusing more on Donald Trump because he is the sitting president instead of trying to bring Bill Clinton in as well. And hey, does anybody not remember the fact that Bill Clinton was summoned by Congress, by an oversight committee, to testify on his relationship with Epstein, him and Hillary Clinton, and they both skipped out on it. And the Dems haven't said a damn thing about it. They were called to testify and skipped out on it, and nobody said anything. This is probably the first time you're hearing of it. But all right, let's move on to our guy Don Lemon, like they're about to do right now.
I do want to move on. Former CNN anchor Don Lemon and another journalist, Georgia Ford, were arrested on Friday on charges they violated federal law during a tense protest.
I'm weak. Shout out to Jay. When the Clintons getting the Bannon treatment. Yeah, low-key, when are they?
At a Minnesota church. A conservative federal judge, somebody who clerked for Antonin Scalia, already had rejected those warrants and wrote that there is no evidence that those two engaged in any criminal behavior or conspired to do so. Then an appeals court held up that decision. Why did you then bring this case to a grand jury after it already had been rejected by multiple judges?
So first of all, that appeals court, you're not right. The appeals court, a judge on the appeals court said that there was clearly probable cause. There was absolutely probable cause that a crime had been committed. Okay, so it's true that they rejected the mandamus petition, but yes, by Mr. Lemon and others, it's public. And so, yes, you're right. A judge in that court had said there wasn't probable cause. But guess what? Our system doesn't allow judges to make that decision. They can make that decision to get an arrest warrant on a complaint, but only a grand jury can bring forth an indictment. And so that's what we did. We went to a grand jury, which, as you know, are 25 citizens from Minneapolis and around that decide whether there's probable cause. And that's who returned an indictment.
Mr. Blanchard, I want to go.
AKA a jury of your peers came together, looked over the case and said, you know what, man, I ain't even gonna lie to you, dog. Even if you like Don Lemon,
Guilty. That nigga is guilty.
he guilty.
Actually, I went through the entire indictment, all 29 alleged overt acts of conspiracy. And there's a lot to ask you about, but I'm just going to pick a few here. Okay, starting with overt act number 20, which says, quote, defendant Lemon told his live stream audience about congregants leaving the church and about a young man who Lemon could see was frightened, scared, and crying. And Lemon observed that the congregants' reactions were understandable because the experience was traumatic and uncomfortable, which he said was the purpose. Overt Act 21 says, quote, as the operation...
Now, he did kind of say that. He did say that. If you actually watch the video, he said, well, that's the purpose. The purpose of journalism is to make you uncomfortable. It's to push the boundaries to get people to the truth. And I was like, bro, are you serious? And like I said, he violated the FACE Act. You cannot sit there and just go in a place of worship because it will be seen as coercing or intimidating people to not practice their freedom of speech.
Continued. Defendant Lemon acknowledged the nature of it by expressing surprise that the police hadn't yet arrived at the church and admitted knowing that the whole point of the operation was to disrupt. Oof. Why wouldn't a jury at trial see this?
Once again.
Oh, yeah. What happened to your sheriff? Guilty. That nigga is guilty.
This as a journalist observing what is happening, which is protected by the First Amendment.
Well, you conveniently left out multiple allegations in that indictment about what else Mr. Lemon did, including surreptitiously avoiding saying where they were going, being part of the planning, being part of the...
If you watch the video at the beginning, he was like, look, I don't know where I'm going. You know, I'm just following this protest group. We don't know. I can't do... I'm staying... Bro literally made sure he stepped away from the group on camera as they was planning to protest inside the church. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, once he pulled up to that church, he could have just went like, whoa, hold on. Y'all going into the church? Oh, no. I can't do that. Oh, y'all about to get arrested for this. Which other protesters did get arrested for, by the way? Not just Don Lemon. They're not picking and choosing. Don't worry. There was a lady and a dude and some white guy with a beard that also got arrested for the same thing Don Lemon did. But yeah, he had every opportunity to turn around and be like, yeah, guys, we can't do this. If you're about to go inside that church, I can't be a part of it. But he said, F it. Knowing the law and all that. And remember, this is a guy, a self-proclaimed, oh, I'm just such a smart guy. I'm just better than all of you guys because of my intelligence and my faggotry and all that good stuff. But he wasn't smart enough to not know that, oh, well, once you go inside here, you've crossed that line into intimidating and coercion people on their freedom of speech and basically their freedom to express their religion.
Decisions to make sure the police didn't know this was happening and federal law enforcement didn't know this is happening. There are multiple allegations there. And guess what? He gets to have a lawyer and he gets to have a defense. And so if he wants to go forward with the defense that, oh, shucks, I was just a journalist, he can do that. But obviously, as the indictment lays out, and which you didn't read on the air, there's a lot of things that Mr. Lemon did that you would never do as a journalist. You would never do that.
Okay,
let's be honest.
This is not about me. This is about what happened, and this is about kind of the rules of the road. I mean, there are many. Let me finish my question. Let me finish my question, and then you have the floor.
Rules of the road. Now, before she gets into that, shout out to my man Jay. Says them's got to admit Nick Shirley's a journalist now too. Exactly. I mean, they were saying, well, you just can't go into the daycares and all that. That's going to disturb the people. And I'm like, well, I mean, look what Don Lemon did. And then here's the thing. He did it in a place of worship. I mean, there's a reason why people who protest against Islam don't go inside the mosque, because they understand they're crossing that line. It'd be the conservatives that's doing so, and they're smart enough to realize to not cross that line. For some reason, Don Lemon wasn't. And he's been in the game longer than most of these people. I mean, bro been in the game since I was a kid. And you're telling me he wasn't smart enough to recognize this? Like, not recognize that once you cross that line and going into a church, you are violating law?
There are countless examples of when reporters are embedded with people, with, DOD, where we are told not to tell anybody where we're going. There are numerous examples of when we get embargoed information that we can't report from your agency, for example, and that has happened on with presidents in both parties, and we withhold reporting it until you say it's time to report it. That's not unusual, and it's not unlike what happened with Don Lemon and Georgia Ford.
Huh?
Well, listen, you are totally correct that happens every day, and it's happened for decades. But if you watch what Mr. Lemon did, okay, and I do not want to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking like Dana, did you actually watch the video? I'd have to ask, did you watch that full video that Don Lemon did? I was like, did you watch it? Because bro snitched on himself multiple times. I don't even know what to tell you. I would have to sit there and look at her like, so you obviously didn't watch the video, because like he snitched on themselves. They snitched on themselves multiple times, especially the black woman who admitted she was a lawyer. I'm like, you're a lawyer doing this, breaking the law right on camera on a live stream. Hey, nah, I forgot about that part. That shit's funny, actually. Hey, yo, shout out my man Monty, though. It's like, yeah, we all know Dems are professional victims, and that's what he's doing right now, playing the victim.
Have a trial right here. It's not fair to him. But I will say that if you watch the publicly available live streaming that he engaged in, the comments that he made, I mean, that's what it matters, right? It matters, like, how do we balance the FACE Act? How do we balance freedom of religion, the right of people to worship on a Sunday morning? Okay, and the freedom of the press, and it's a balance that we have to engage in. I agree with you, but my point to you is that I promise you that neither you nor your colleagues can honestly, with a straight face, if you watch everything that he did in the day before with the planning and the day of with what happened, when the comments he made while the kids were crying and screaming and racing away, while the parents were looking for their children upstairs,
but he doesn't
while they were just trying to have a church service.
Okay. Bottom line question for you is,
and so,
was this really about what you just described, or was it about trying to make an example out of somebody who
I mean, and this is the problem. I mean, Dems, you can't sit here and say every time we hold y'all accountable is, oh, well, this is about revenge. This is about like, oh, this is get back. Like, no, he broke the law. Okay. Not every time a Democrat breaks the law and we go after them, it's all about revenge, it's all about get back, retribution. No, he just broke the law. Because I mean, what was the first thing they try to say? Oh, you know, Don Lemon is an obvious enemy of Trump. Bro, Trump barely speaks on this man, Don Lemon. I mean, I'm pretty sure Trump got more ops at CNN that are, I'm be real, just still on CNN. Like, he ain't worried about Don Lemon. Don Lemon ain't the top like enemy of Donald Trump, especially at CNN, since he no longer works there. So them trying to give all this importance to him, like, oh, he's an enemy of Trump. Not really. Like, yeah, he disagrees with Trump, but to call him an enemy, I mean, you know, maybe if Trump was to call him out publicly every now and then, we could say that. But nah, I mean, he's basically a nobody. He used to be somebody back when I was a kid, but not anymore. So no, it's not that. He actually broke a law, and you guys can't keep calling it retribution every time these guys step out of line, break a law, and you guys want to just say, oh, no, well, Trump can't do it because that person hates Trump. And if he hates Trump, then I mean, what? Trump can't prosecute them? Trump DOJ can't prosecute anybody that said anything bad about Trump in the past. Are you guys serious?
president has sparred with?
I don't even know that the president's even ever thought of Don Lemon. I don't know whether that's true or not. But I will tell you, we're not making examples of people. The day after that happened, the attorney general flew to Minneapolis. She was there for 3 days. What we saw, there is no scenario under which the American people are comfortable or think that was right. I'm sorry. So no, this is not about making an example. It's
I want to move on. I want to move on. But earlier this week, the FBI went into the elections office in Fulton County, Georgia, to seize 2020 ballots, voter rolls.
Man, like, again? So, bro, remember, we just got done seeing Speaker Mike Johnson speak on this. Now Dana's asking to Todd Blanche? All right. Well, what y'all hiding? What are y'all hiding? Why is this so important to you guys? Why are y'all even bringing this up? Like, it's like, let's be real. If you're so confident that the 2020 election wasn't stolen, then why are y'all complaining about these records being taken? To be honest, y'all should be sitting there ready to be proved right twice, if anything. Now y'all over here asking, well, oh, why are you doing it again? What's going on? I mean, why are you acting guilty? Can you explain that, please? Instead of, sitting back in confidence, waiting to be proven right a second time.
scanner images, and the president told reporters, quote, they...
Oh, and shout out to my man Monty. He's like, LML, you don't do that. You don't do that with Criminals Act. And the DOD is not breaking the laws. Damn, the Department of Defense is not breaking the laws, Monty. You know what? I agree with you, but I know a lot of Dems are losing their mind over the fact of you saying that. Notice how every indictment that happened to Trump was law and order, but every indictment the DOJ hands down, now it's Trump's retribution. Like, literally. That's what's so irritating about it. It's like, are you serious? Really? So, like, we can't sit there and say that, oh, the government's going after Trump. The Dems hate Trump because of the TDS. You guys are going like, no, it's just law and order. Now that the tables are turned, what's your argument? Oh, it's all revenge, it's all retribution. None of it's real. They're just trying to go after his enemies. Nope. That's wrong. No, they actually did break the law on a lot of levels. And here's the thing: what kills me is the Letitia James and Comey part, and they're going to get away just because of the incompetence of Pam Bondi. But when it comes to Don Lemon in this case right here, y'all just got to admit the man broke the law, and he honestly should have been smart enough or have enough experience in the game of journalism to not do that. Like, to be honest with you, if this is like some YouTuber, like, honestly, I expect Nick Shirley to make a mistake like this. I expect a young kid to make a mistake like that and not knowing the law like that to be going in there. I'm sorry, but we got younger people than Don Lemon out here doing stuff like that outside of places of worship, not actually going in there. How are they smarter than the man that's been in this game for decades?
Got into the votes. You're going to see some interesting things happening. What interesting things is he talking about, and why was he so involved in an FBI and DOJ raid?
Well, just because he said that doesn't mean that he's involved. I don't believe he was involved. This is a criminal grand jury investigation, and I can't comment on it beyond what you just said, which is that there was a search warrant that was authorized by a federal judge, by a magistrate judge in Atlanta, that allowed us to go and seize those records, and they have been seized by the FBI.
Oh, guys, do me a favor and double tap that screen, like the video, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation by double tapping that screen, and make sure to subscribe to the channel while you're at it.
As part of an ongoing criminal investigation.
He said interesting things are happening, so it sounds like he was briefed on it.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not around when the president's briefed or not briefed. What I said is that this is a criminal investigation, so it's a tightly held, as it must be under the law. It's a grand jury investigation, and that's how we're proceeding.
What are they investigating?
As you know, we can't talk about specifics of any grand jury investigation. I will tell you, as I said on Friday, as the president has said, election integrity is of the highest importance to the American people, hopefully to everybody in this country, Democrats and Republicans alike. And so we are doing everything we can to make sure that we have free and fair elections.
Okay. And as you well know, that when it comes to Georgia, claims of voter fraud there, because they got the 2020 ballots, have been debunked over and over again. There were multiple recounts. Why was the director of national...
Yeah, no, but, just like you guys, the Dems like to, criticize us. Oh, well, so you're going to tell me that ICE is going to investigate ICE? The feds are going to investigate the feds? Well, that's what happened in Georgia. I mean, the state investigated the state. I mean, they investigated themselves for fraud. And look how that worked out. So now that it's in the hands of the government now, an outside entity, well, we'll see how it works out. And like I said, you guys should be kicking your feet up, waiting to be proven right a second time. What's the panic for?
Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard present at an FBI raid?
First of all, it wasn't an FBI raid. It was a search warrant being executed by FBI agents in the middle of the day.
But why was she there?
And secondly, Secondly, I don't know why the director was there. She is not part of the grand jury investigation, but she is for sure a key part of our efforts at election integrity and making sure that we have free and fair elections. She's an expert in that space, and it's a big part of what she and her team look at every day. But beyond that, I don't, like I said before, this is a grand jury investigation being conducted by a U.S. attorney, and that's where we have to leave it for now.
Mr. Blanche, imagine if President Biden sent his politically appointed director of national intelligence to Mar-a-Lago. You and his other personal attorneys would have been understandably very unhappy about it. Are you unhappy that the DNI Tulsi Gabbard was there?
Well, first of all, Biden's director of ODNI was involved.
I mean, let's be real. The director of national intelligence, yeah, of course she'd be there because she got to make sure that there wasn't any type of foreign entity being, well, really, there wasn't any type of foreign interference being used. Because guess what? You know, when elections get stolen around the world all the time, actually, all the time, yeah, it's usually due to foreign interference. And we've done it ourselves. So who's to say that, I mean, like, maybe we should make sure there's no foreign interference in our own election, since we know it happens around the world. And we've also participated in ourselves. Well, we've also participated in doing so ourselves in other countries, of course.
In that case, as we all know. So whether the
Maidan Revolution.
Okay, but that's hardly
and
the
it
point.
also involved
the point
classified documents, not necessarily voter rolls.
And as again, there's a lot of classified information around voter integrity, which is something that came out during the case against President Trump, and which has been publicly talked about for many, many years. So no, I'm not unhappy or happy. The Tulsi can go where she needs to go. She's phenomenal. She's doing a great job, and she's a partner with us. But like I said, folks want to make something out of this that does not exist. This is a grand jury investigation being run by the FBI.
All right, now let's go ahead and get on to the next video right here. Now we're going to go ahead and get into this James O'Keefe video, you know, of him being in Minnesota during the protest. And then we're going to get right back into the news. So hopefully you guys enjoy this.
So we're in downtown Minneapolis.
What we found, NGOs and nonprofits funded by the government, featuring true believers.
Is the door locked?
Lock the door. Why are you giving us the middle finger?
Our undercover people were inside the mob.
National organization used to look up Face the Road, New York.
Are there chats and stuff? I'm trying to get linked up. Watch out. Here we go.